Good morning, everybody. I hope you're well and you had a really good weekend. So today's Monday, and here is our Monday assembly with our focus on places of hope, linked to our value of hope for this month. So we're going to start by looking at two photographs, and there are two places. I wonder if you recognise either of those places. Do you know where they are? Have you ever visited them? Do you know why they're important? Do you know why people visit those places and why they're significant? What have they got to do with hope? Lots of questions there that hopefully we can answer in today's assembly. So we'll start off with the picture on the left, because hopefully that's a little bit more familiar to most of us. Yes, you're right. It's just down the road from here. It's the Epsom Downs racecourse. And even if you've not been inside the building, I'm sure that you have walked across the racecourse and you've been on the downs. I know many of you have been with the school at some point. Perhaps you went to fly a kite, because I know that's something that Key Stage 1 enjoy doing. And maybe you've been for family walks. Perhaps you've been there to visit the horse racing events that happen. Perhaps you've been to the Derby. Because that's one of the reasons why Epsom Racecourse is so well known, for the Derby that happens every year. And if you mention Epsom to people who don't live anywhere near it, they may well have heard of Epsom because they've heard of the racing events that take place, because they're very famous. So Epsom is really well known for its racecourse. It's famous not just in this country, but actually people across the world may have heard of Epsom Racecourse and the Derby because it's so well known. Well, the other picture, well, it's something I know very well, and some of you may have visited this place. It's actually in a city where I grew up. As a child, I lived in this city called Salisbury. And this is a very, very, very special building called Salisbury Cathedral. A cathedral is like a very big church. And if a place has got a cathedral in it, we can call it a city. So I grew up in the city of Salisbury. And the bedroom that I used to have as a child, when I looked out of the window in the morning, we lived on top of a hill and we could look across the city and we could see the cathedral, because the very important feature of Salisbury Cathedral, and part of what makes it very famous, is it has a very, very tall spire. And you can see in the picture, the spire is that tall steeple that's rising up into the sky. And it's, I actually don't know how tall it is, but Salisbury is very well known for the cathedral and for the tall spire. And in the dark, so if you ever in Salisbury when it's nighttime, there's a light at the top of the spire to stop any vehicles that might be flying, so in any aeroplanes or helicopters, to make sure they don't have a collision with the spire because it's so high up. Now, you might be thinking, well, what have Epsom Racecourse and Salisbury Cathedral got to do with each other? Well, both of them are very well known as landmarks or important places. So when, as I mentioned about Epsom, when people think about Epsom, they often think about the racecourse. And when people think about Salisbury, they often think about the cathedral. And that's a very well-known place. Another thing they've got in common is obviously they're linked to places I live, but that's not the reason that I've mentioned them in today's assembly. There's another reason that they're both, at the moment, very important buildings. And the reason that they're both important right now is because both of them are being used as places where people are being vaccinated against COVID-19. So you might have seen in the news that Epsom Racecourse is somewhere that people can travel to if they've been invited to have a vaccination, that's somewhere they can go to have that vaccination at the racecourse. And Salisbury Cathedral is somewhere that has just started opening its doors and allowing people to go and be vaccinated. And if you're not quite sure what a vaccination is, in fact, all of you in the school have had vaccinations, because when you were babies, the vast majority of you would have had little jabs or injections against various illnesses. And then just recently, we had the flu vaccination. And that wasn't an injection. That was something where you had the nasal flu and you had it up your noses. So you might remember having that recently. And those vaccinations are a little bit of, they have a bit of a virus in them. And the idea is to stop you becoming ill if you do come in contact with the virus. So it's an important thing so that when people have the flu vaccination, they hopefully don't get flu. So the idea with a COVID-19 vaccination is it aims to stop people getting coronavirus. So let's have a little bit more of a look at Salisbury Cathedral and how somewhere that people go, because I said it's a bit like a church, so people go there, normally nothing to do with vaccinations. Let's have a little look inside. So the picture on the left is the cathedral in normal times. You can't see anybody in there, but you can see rows and rows and rows of chairs. And people sit on those rows of chairs when they go for the services in the cathedral. Now the picture on the right, you can see all those chairs have been removed. And people are sitting or standing distanced apart. And there's people waiting to have their vaccinations. So you can see the cathedral's being used for a very, very different purpose. And now having a look a little bit more close up, this is one little part of the cathedral that's been used. And each of those, the blue things you can see in the picture are kind of dividers that are used to separate the different areas. And then you can see different people in those areas. And that's where the vaccinations are happening. So that's where people who have got appointments can go and get the COVID-19 vaccination. Somewhere that people normally go to pray and to worship is now become somewhere that people are going to get vaccinated. And the people of Salisbury are very proud of what is happening in their cathedral and how somewhere that has been, we can't have church services in the normal way at the moment, just in the way that we can't have school as normal. There's lots of things that can't happen as normal. And so rather than having services, they're using this great big space for something really very important. So you can see here that a very old building that normally would be used for worship and for Christians to come and pray is not being used in its normal way, but is being used to help people. So what's up? How is this a picture of hope? Well, many people believe that having those vaccinations will make a big, big difference to people. And that by having this vaccination, it offers protection against coronavirus. And that once many more people are vaccinated, it should reduce the number of people who become unwell with COVID-19. And hopefully we can get back to some kind of normality. Many people are talking about this as being a symbol of hope and the end of coronavirus being in sight. And certainly, if not the end, then one would hope that we can start to have a less disrupted life and get back to many of the things that we enjoy doing. So although it's mainly the elderly and those people who are working with the elderly that are the first to be vaccinated, by making sure that more and more people in our communities are safe, hopefully means that we can get back to being a school together as quickly as possible. So that's what we really want, isn't it? Hope that we can come out the other side of this pandemic as quickly as possible and that as many people can be as well as possible. Well, that's all for me for today. Some pictures there for us to think about. And I'll be meeting with you again on Wednesday to share another story of hope. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.